Hello and welcome to the AV Forums podcast, and we're streaming on a Wednesday night. It's Wednesday the 16th of September. First time we've done this. Joining me tonight is Steve Withers.
I've taught you to love chickens.
Ed Selley.
You perverse British, how you love your exercise.
And Tom Davies.
I'm James Bond.
Right, so we are streaming.
That narrows it down a bit.
Again. And yeah, Tom, the idea is that people have to try and guess what the film is.
That's great. They've only got, like, what did I say?
1 in 22 chance.
Yeah, 1 in 22 chance. So.
Yeah, I suppose. So yes, we're streaming. It's Wednesday. This is our new time slot, and the reason we're doing it during the week is that it's during the week. It's a work day and it's not on the weekend, and it gives everybody a chance to, well, it gives us a chance to catch up on news, because normally you get news on a Monday and a Tuesday. Wednesday seems about fine, and it's hump day, isn't it? I only found out what hump day meant. Obviously Wednesday. Cause
it many things, but in this particular instance, what you're referring to is the middle of the week.
Is breaking the back of the week.
Yes, something like that. But anyway, it's a Wednesday and we're streaming live. And thank you very much if you are joining us this evening. It is appreciated if you're watching us live. But we do know that the vast majority of you do listen to the audio-only version, which you can get via iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. If you're listening later in the week, taking the dog out for a walk or commuting to work or whatever, again, thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions listening when we're not live, you can do that via podcast@avforums.com, and when we get those emails, we will go through them and read them out if you've got any questions for us. Also, remember, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you enjoy these live podcasts, please hit the like button. The like button is incredibly important, because the more likes a video gets, the more chance it has for the YouTube algorithm to find it and push it in front of new people, who will then find us, find the podcast, find AV Forums and everything that we do. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, it really is appreciated, and it really does help the podcast find a new audience. Also, ring that bell, and it will notify you every time we publish a new video. And yeah, it's going to be strange doing it during the week, because you get into a bit of a routine. I was all ready to go on Sunday. I'd come home.
Yes, I actually timed everything subconsciously and was still wandering around at 7:15 going, oh, I should do it.
You lied to me. I thought, oh, good, I can watch 2 films tonight rather than 1.
Yeah, because that's just what Steve does. If you do appreciate what we're doing with the editorial, with the podcast and everything else, you can, of course, donate via Patreon. So you can do that on a regular basis. It's £3 a month. You can head over to patreon.com/AV Forums, and it really is appreciated for everybody that is supporting us on there. I think we've got 21 patrons. So thank you very much, everybody that has done that. And of course, if you want to ask a question and give a donation at the same time, you can do that via streamlabs.com AV Forums. And like I say, it's a perfect way for you to get your question answered, because it jumps up to the top of the pile. We're more likely to see it. And if you have given a donation, we can guarantee that we will at least read out your question and try and answer it. So yes, you can do that as well. And if you do that, it does help us in terms of growing AV Forums, site speed, features, new editorial, and maybe one day we'll hit the holy grail of doing a decent podcast. No promises there, though. Donations since we were last live, you can do this at any time during the week. And like I say, if you are listening during the week and so on, you want to join us on Patreon or via Streamlabs, you can do that. Joker donated £5. Joker thank you very much, Joker. That's Joker with double R at the end there. Ains, that's AINS, has donated £3, and he asked a question. He says, does the Sony A8 OLED dim full screen a couple of minutes into a football game? Never seems to be addressed in reviews, but was aggressive on the AF8. Yes, it was aggressive on the AF8. You'll find that in my review, and I did point that out.
I remember it, yeah.
The A8 is not bad at all. In fact, all of the OLEDs this year, they all do it to some extent. The LGs and the Panasonics tend to do the logos, so they'll find the logo. Certainly the new Philips do that as well. They have an algorithm that finds a logo and will dim the logo and so on. If you're watching a football game and it has got certain things on screen like scoreboards and so on, they will dim over time, but it's not as aggressive as it was on the AF8. So I hope that answers your question, Ains. And I did, in my AF8, mention that because we talked about it some length on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
And new patrons. So we got 3 new patrons this week: Michael Maguire, Mark Costello, and Sam Lowe. All 3 of you, thank you again very much. It is appreciated that you join us on Patreon and help us do what we do. Thank you very much for the support. Right.
Thank you.
So what have we done this week, Tom? Because we haven't seen you for a while, Tom.
Yeah, that's true. I've been mostly recovering from having a terrible cold. My child returned to school, so you'll probably hear me sniffing and sneezing and coughing through the podcast whenever I forget to hit the mute button. I also saw the best film of the year, which I reviewed for the forums. I'm thinking of ending things. It got quite a number of replies, people saying, I turned it off after 15 minutes. That shows it's definitely a good movie. And then today I watched probably the second best movie of the year, which was The Devil All the Time, which has been incredible. And I'm currently in the middle of writing up a review on that. That's about all I've done, I think. I've not had a very exciting week at all. Oh, my child turned 1. That's quite exciting. That's quite an important thing, isn't it? A child's birthday, which I just forgot just then. But yeah, that's about it. Nothing super exciting.
Did you go to the cinema or have you stayed at home?
I haven't been to the cinema. No. When was the last time I went to the cinema? I don't know is the answer to that.
You
A couple of weeks
saw
ago.
Tenet, didn't you?
I did see Tenet. That was probably the last thing I saw. Yeah. And I also saw The New Mutants. Those are the last things I saw.
So what was the experience like? Because I haven't ventured anywhere near a cinema so far.
I have found in certain, because I've been to a couple of different cinema chains now, in some of the chains, they seem to have their finger on the button. They've got everything sorted, feels safe, it feels well organized. When I've been, can I say the name of the chain that's been good?
Yeah, of course you can.
So Odeon have been amazing. Every time I've been to an Odeon,
they normally are. I've got to say, my experiences of Odeon have been positive before all this kicked off. I've never had an issue with Odeon. Although I do know that some of the older sites you might get some issues, but the newer sites where they've spent a bit of money,
Bath
like
Odeon's
Bucks and,
crap.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is a Lux, so it's quite a nice place anyway.
Yeah,
so. But I've also had an experience with another cinema chain, which I probably won't name, that has just been haphazard and not very well organized, and the seating spacing has not worked. They've been placing people way too close to each other, although they say it's within distance guidelines. I felt a little less comfortable there. So I've had kind of both ends of the experience, really. So it feels like it might be kind of a lucky dip as to which is your closest cinema and how on it they are.
Okay, good stuff. Ed, you had the barber on. You've been away shooting.
No, this is planning for my son's birthday party. It appears that it's how we get
like
multiple
Prince
children
Andrew.
together.
It wasn't a party. It was just a simple, ordinary, regular shooting weekend.
Well, the way I see it, I can get a load of 6 turning 7-year-olds together, give them some air rifles, and have a crack at the pigeons, and that's legit.
Yeah, you can.
So that's so yeah, I'm working on that. That's all good. I apologize in advance. This is more going to affect the video feed than people listening back on audio, I hope. This switch to Wednesday is ideal as far as I'm concerned, but it does mean that my son is in the house. Normally on a Sunday he is not, on a Wednesday he is. So that brief video interlude where I disappeared just now, that's because he was shot into view, and because, for reasons best known to himself, he refuses to wear pajama bottoms at the moment, as I don't really want the black flag that comes with that on the YouTube channel. It may be for reasons technically beyond my control that my feed is briefly interrupted. The other thing that's important to stress is that you will see that I am drinking beer out of a beer glass, but this beer contains no alcohol because it is a school night. But I promise not to be utterly morose. So, hopefully we should all be fine. Otherwise, I've been doing lots of work for you and lots of other people. It's been busy. Now school has started. My son hasn't brought me back a horrible illness like Tom, but at the moment I can't book any courier collections because I'm not in all day. So at the moment, equipment can come in, but it can't go out. And there is a lot of stuff here at the moment. So Tuesday is going to be a really important day for finally clearing the decks. But no, otherwise business as usual. So yeah, can't argue.
Man found under mountain of turntables.
Turntables aren't the problem. It's the blooming floor standers.
Yeah, speakers and
They
TVs and stuff
really
like that.
start to accrue. So but you know, it's a first world problem. The very pointiest of first world problems. So you know, it could be an awful lot worse. So yeah, all good.
Well, I've had a takedown and setup day, as you can probably see round about me. So I finished with the Panasonic X800 LCD TV. So that's sitting there, not sitting there. I'm looking at the video feed. Get it wrong. So the Panasonic's sitting there, it's ready to go back tomorrow morning. The big TV behind me is the Sony XH95. And the teeny weeny one sitting next to it is the 48-inch OLED TV from LG.
Teeny, utterly teeny.
It's tiny in this room. I'm so used now to having 55 and 65 inch, or sometimes two 65s or two 55s together, and you know, just a big screen wall, and having this little itsy bitsy 48-inch thing. It's tiny. It's very cyan when I turned it on as well. It's really noticeable in the whites. I run some test patterns. I'm hoping it's not a panel issue, and it's just something when I turned it on. And like I say, I've only just set them up today, so yeah, I'm working on those two at the moment. Had a busy weekend. I had 2 runs out because obviously before the rule of 6 came in, went out with the car club. So there was a few of us went out. We went to Hadrian's Wall.
Isn't it? You're in cars, so
no. Well, we obviously we stopped for lunch and that kind of thing, and we had packed lunches and so on, and nice scenic places around the country. So
full-on drive-through action next time. Although none of you eat in your cars, do you? So.
No. It's absolutely forbidden to eat in the cars. So
as long as you keep the cars 2 meters apart, though, you can sit on, sit by your car and have your packed lunch and not, still be.
Well, we could.
I have no idea what the restrictions are.
We could do that because at one point in Scarborough, we all stopped at the busy side of the road because we got lost and didn't know where we were going. There was a police van turned up behind us, wasn't interested in us at all. If we'd been in, Corsas or whatever and loud cars like that, we'd probably been spoken to, but obviously they saw the Mustangs and moved on. But yeah, Saturday we went to High Force Waterfall, which is
it's an absolutely stunning place.
Quite a sight. And then we went up to Alston, which is in Cumbria, right up at the top of the hill, and then down into Hexham, and then along Hadrian's Wall. And that was on the Saturday.
I love Hexham. It's like a tiny little piece of Surrey transplanted.
Yeah, it's Tory Town. If I could describe it, it is Tory Town. Absolutely. All Range Rovers and Hunter Wellies and all that kind of thing. Wax jackets and
some
stuff.
Nice pubs though.
Yeah. And then the Sunday we went to Whitby and Scarborough, so down the coast, and then
you see the ruined Abbey.
Yeah, we stopped for lunch at the Abbey, so we all got parked on the grass at the Abbey and had our packed lunch. No, unfortunately, I didn't see Dracula.
Oh, didn't you go to the Dracula Museum in Whitby?
No.
Oh man, it's an experience.
I'm sure it is.
That could be taken in a number of different ways. You didn't necessarily say a positive experience.
I mean, unfortunately, the bridge, the swing bridge, because you can drive right down onto the front and go along the swing bridge. It was all closed down because it's getting maintenance at the minute, so we couldn't drive through the town. It's a lovely little town, but yeah, that's what I've been up to. So TV reviewing and getting out in the car before the rule of 6 came in. Are you
going to mention that damage was sustained, or are you blocking that out?
I'm annoyed with myself.
Your car?
No, I didn't want my car. I've curbed one of the alloys, and I don't know where I've done it because it's slight. It's like half an inch where it's
huge.
But they're almost brand new wheels. I've had them less than six months, and whenever you do something like that, I feel disappointed in myself. I've let myself down.
In fairness, I got around this with the previous car. I curved one of the wheels on the first day, and my ex-wife curved another one about 48 hours after that. So it kind of took I stopped caring after that point. But I do feel your pain to an extent. So
Yeah. Well, the last car I did 2 alloys the day after I got it, so I don't feel too bad this time around. But again, it's 50 to 70 quid to get fixed. That's the annoying thing, and that I did it myself, so I'm annoyed. What films have you been watching, Steve? Because you wouldn't have been outside.
No, I haven't been outside. Not really. I tell you what I've been doing. I've been reading a couple of books. The Making of Aliens, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, and also a book about the art and special effects of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
So, in other words, when you haven't been watching films, you've been reading books about films.
Yes,
Right.
I've been watching my way. I worked my way through, well, 3 of the 4 films in the Alfred Hitchcock collection. I watched Vertigo, Rear Window, and The Birds. Haven't seen, well, I have seen obviously Psycho before, but I'm watching that tomorrow. A mate's coming over. We're going to watch Psycho.
I love Psycho.
Slightly longer, slightly on by about 10 seconds. Original version before there was some cuts made. In the 1960s.
So how do they look?
They look fantastic. Vertigo in particular, which was shot in VistaVision, looks beautiful. It's a strange film though. I'm not entirely sure.
No, I don't think.
I think it's as good as everyone seems to think it is.
Wow, it's my favorite Hitchcock movie. Like,
well, first of all, James Stewart's way too old for the part. I think even Hitchcock admitted that afterwards. I like James Stewart a lot, but he's 50, and he's meant to have gone to university with Barbara Bel Geddes, who's like 36, and Kim Novak's 25. So, but also, what the thing is, the husband's plot to get rid of his missus is unbelievably convoluted, and the only thing did it need to be so complex? Surely just. I prefer, if you're going to talk about it, I prefer Brian De Palma's remake, Obsession, or homage, should I say, and also the fact he pinched large parts of it along with Rear Window for Body Double. I didn't get it really. I can understand why it wasn't a hit. I must have really blindsided 50s audiences. So it's interesting that the credits is the first time ever that a film used a computer-generated image, 1958.
I do love the scores as well. I've got to say,
the scores are fantastic. Yeah, they are.
And any news on North by Northwest? Because that's another one of my big favorites.
I haven't heard anything, but I'd love to see that. Because it's a fantastic film. That probably is my favorite Hitchcock movie, and along with Rebecca and VistaVision again. So it should look.
Yeah, it looked fantastic. I mean, the blue
pitch quality was unbelievable. I mean, particularly Vertigo. It does look gorgeous. Obviously, Hitchcock uses colors very specifically in that film, along with the lighting. There's a scene when they're in a bookshop and it suddenly I thought something wrong with my projector. I thought, God, it's gone very dark. But it was quite deliberate on Hitchcock's part while they were talking about a certain thing. The scene goes quite dark, and then the clouds move as they walk outside. And it's interesting that a lot of the stuff that was shot on locations and on the streets of San Francisco, that sort of stuff, looks stunning. Obviously, when they cut to a process shot, it looks really obvious.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an interesting film, but I'm not sure it.
Grain.
It's there's a tiny bit of grain, but nothing more than you'd expect from a film shot on film.
Yeah, no,
I'd like to see a bit of grain.
I do as well, and I think 4K is the first format where we actually get to appreciate it properly.
Rear Window, you get to see all that lovely detail in that massive set, that's the view out of his window. I liked your comment, Tom, about when obviously while he was looking out the back window, 4 guys were murdered in the street in front of the house. Taser mugged or whatever you said.
He'd wasted his time trying to spy on these people. Outrageous.
The most unbelievable bit of that film is the fact he doesn't want to sleep with Grace Kelly, who is stunning in it.
Well, on that bombshell.
I see what you did there, Ed. Right. Competition time. Take it away, Tom.
Oh, sure. So we've got a few competitions out currently. There's an opportunity to win a copy of The King of Staten Island. That ends on the 9th of October. That was a great movie, by the way. I'd super recommend that. You could win a copy of Once Were Brothers on Blu-ray. That's closing the 23rd of September. You can also win a copy of Criterion's September titles on Blu-ray. So that's Safety Last, which is hilarious. Showboat and Boat Revive on that closes on the 6th of October. We'll also do the podcast competition at the end. You can win a copy of Chadwick Boseman's 21 Bridges on Blu-ray. So stay tuned for that. Also seems like a good a time as any. Just one final shout out for Chadwick Boseman, sadly taken from us too soon, the acting legend of the years, and probably the best thing about 21 Bridges, which is a decidedly enter the competition. If you've not seen it, you'll love it. All the competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK. So we've got some winners from the last few competitions as well. So Thong88, that's the 88th Thong, won a copy of Pennyworth Season 1 on Blu-ray. J-Door 1964 won a copy of Criterion's August titles on Blu-ray. Those were Lady Eve, Taste of Cherry, and Marriage Story. Big Evil Jimmy, cousin of Small Evil Jimmy, was very chuffed to have won a copy of Spartacus on 4K. Znook won a copy of Pitch Black on 4K. Steve Morton won a copy of 5 Graves to Cairo on Blu-ray. Bootstrap Will said, thanks for the great work on reviews and podcast, when he won a copy of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on 4K limited edition steelbook, which Kaz hated and is wrong about. SSR102 won the podcast exclusive competition last time around to win a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog on Blu-ray. Done.
Is that a good thing or a bad? I'm not even going to go there. Right, that's it. Competition's done. We'll be back in a sec with hardware. Okay, so we were talking about TVs earlier. I've had quite a few TVs in. I've moved some of them on, but yet to write some of them up. So some of the reviews are still about to hit AV forums. There's one launched today, which was the Panasonic HZ1000. What an absolute cracking TV. If you are a movie fan and your pockets are not deep enough to go to the HZ2000, which is an expensive OLED TV. It's a cracking OLED TV, but my God, it's expensive. Over £3,000 for a 55-inch. If you want a TV for watching movies, critical watching of movies in the dark, you want excellent just above black shadow detailing, you want depth to the image, you want excellent HDR and so on, and you don't need a sound system of any kind because you've got your own home cinema system, then this is probably the movie TV of the year. You could use it as a monitor. The picture quality is fantastic. Smart TV lets it down slightly, but not a lot. You know, you still get quite a bit on the My Home screen 5.0. You get most of the apps, all the catch-up apps for the terrestrial TV, which is more than what LG will give you this year. And against the C10, in terms of movies, I just think it's our superior TV, superior color performance, incredibly accurate, and it has all the features that you would need as a movie fan. If you're a gamer, it's not too bad games-wise, 22 milliseconds input lag. HDR games look fine on it. It's just, you know, it doesn't have all the HDMI 2.1 stuff. Only the LGs have that this year in terms of OLEDs. If gaming is your thing, if you want an all-round great TV, go get the C10. If not, and you're a big movie fan, you can't stretch to the 2000, then I think the HZ1000 is, just in terms of accuracy and so on, is absolutely fantastic TV. But the TV I'm going to talk about is the TCL C815. Get your tongue around that one. It's a edge-lit LCD TV. So immediately you're going to have the issues of being an edge-lit LCD TV. It's a VA panel as well, which means viewing angles are not great. You really need to be sitting bang on. There's a 100 hertz VA panel that's on it. It has quantum dot color. It's 65 inches, the one that I reviewed. It has Dolby Vision, HDR10+, HDR10 HLG, an Onkyo 2.1 soundbar fixed to the bottom of it. It also supports Dolby Atmos decoding, ARC on HDMI 1, and it will also support DTS audio. Not a lot of TVs will do DTS audio anymore. It also has Smart TV, which is Android TV 9, which is Pi, which is fast, it's stable. I think Android now on all the TVs that I've tested this year that have Android TV, they've all been good.
It's a slow process to get there, but now they've got there.
It did. There was a few bumps in the road, but we're now there. It's now working properly. They've all got the right processors in there to make it work properly and to be stable and quite quick. The other thing is the 815 has Freeview Play, which means it has all the terrestrial catch-up pages, content discovery, all the rest of it. Like I say, 65-inch, all that on board, £750 to you, which is astonishing value. So, you know, it has issues. There is no such thing as a perfect TV. So it's edge-lit, which means for HDR, it can't go very bright, and it doesn't go very bright. It does around about 320 nits, and it does that on all window sizes. Contrast ratio, I measured it at 4,167 to 1, so that was 327 nits peak, 0.079 for the black levels, which gives you your contrast ratio. There are issues with clouding on the screen now and again. If you're watching in a pitch black room, if you're watching a letterboxed film, black bars, they do light up. Again, 750 quid for a 65-inch TV. It's not designed for critical movie viewing. It's designed for a normal living room for the vast majority of people out there who are going to plunk it down, maybe not even stick it in the cinema mode, which is quite accurate out of the box. And they're going to watch normal TV. It's got everything on there, Freeview Play and all sorts. The color is excellent on it. I really did like the color performance. I thought it was really good. It didn't quite reach DCI-P3. It was 95%, 98%, around about that point. But most TVs are around that anyway. Yeah. So I haven't tested one that's done a full 100% this year. There was one last.
It's 99, I think.
I think I had a Samsung QLED TV do round about that last year. So, you're not going to get any better than that. Like I say, Dolby Vision HDR10 Plus as well. It's not. The peak brightness is not there, but at the same time, because of that, you don't have that many issues in terms of watching HDR where you're going to get clouding all over the screen because it's using the edge-lit technology. Because it's not that bright, it doesn't have too many issues with that. And put a light on in the room when you're watching it, and a lot of those issues disappear. Obviously, if you get off axis, it's an issue with all VA panels. Your contrast and your color shifts, and the image washes out. You're going to get that with anything. It's down to the technology, not necessarily this TCL. So to be honest with you, in terms of value for money, features, performance, I wasn't sure what I was going to make of TCL. This is the first TCL TV I've had in for review. Build quality is really nice. The only thing was the stand. It's 3 legs, and one leg points backwards, obviously stops the TV going over, and it's got 2 legs out to the side. It's stable once it's on a platform, but if you pushed it the wrong way or somebody was to fall over towards it or whatever, it's gonna topple over. But it looks nice, and the build quality is there. There's metal in there. It reminded me a lot of Hisense build quality. I think it's up to their standards as well. So it might not have ISF or THX or Filmmaker or Dolby Vision IQ.
It's
or
a 65-inch television for 750.
Exactly. So it gets a recommendation. The full review will be out hopefully before the end of the week. I've just got to finish up on my performance and
Did you say what input lag was?
I need to do my notes because I haven't got to that point. Thanks for that, Ed.
I'm sorry. I was trying to for once.
You know what?
On televisions.
Read the review, Ed. It'll be out later this week. It'll be in.
Because it's the sort of thing where, it's priced at the sort of point whereas its potential as a gaming television is quite significant if it's not half.
Yes, well, I mean, it doesn't have HDMI 2.1 features or anything like that. There's none of that on there. It's HDMI.
You're not going to expect that for 750 quid, though.
Exactly. If you get console gaming, I think, now don't quote me on this, but I think it was about 22 milliseconds, which is not bad at all. It's perfectly all right if you're going to console.
Anything less than 30 and you're fine. You're not going to notice that.
Yeah.
I think my response times are at a point where I probably am not going to pick up on a 7mm.
Well, I mean,
you'd be using 2 tin cans and a piece of string, and I wouldn't know.
I mean, technically, running a 60 hertz signal, I think you're working at 16 milliseconds a frame. So 32 is 2 frames. That's getting slow then. So anything under 32, you're fine running that kind of signal. So I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, it's a great TV. I've got to be honest, I wasn't expecting much because normally when you see these bargain TVs come in for review and so on, you kind of expect what they're going to be like. But this one knocks it out of the park, just value for money. And there's some performance in there. Again, it's not perfect. You're not going to get that for 750 quid, but for what you're going to use it for in a normal living room and so on, absolutely spot on. It's really impressed me. And like I say, the review will be up this week. So moving from TVs, I don't know if everybody's here. No, Ed's gone. So for a second, so we'll go to Steve then. So Steve, what have you been looking at?
A couple of wireless speakers. Got the Denon Home 350. So this is part of their new lineup of home wireless speakers. The 150, 250, 350. So this is the top of the line. It's £599. So it's, you know, it's not cheap. 600 quid's a fair bit of money for a wireless speaker, but it is, you know, it is big. It's a well-built, really big. I mean, it's about like this big. It's a big speaker. And it's got HEOS built into it, which is Denon and Marantz's multi-room system, and it's a really good wireless speaker. The sound quality is excellent. The setup is a piece of cake. It's got, like I said, it's got HEOS. It's got Amazon Alexa. It's got AirPlay. You can stream to it really easily. And the sound quality is really good. It's got quite a bit of bass, and in fact, so much so that I would avoid putting it in corners because it might get a bit boomy. But it's got enough power and enough low end to deliver a really decent soundstage in even a reasonably large room. So I think as a obviously this is not portable, you know, you basically would plonk it in a room and use it as a source for listening to music, and for that purpose it's fantastic. Now, because it's part of HEOS, of course, you know, you can move around the house, different speakers, and you know, listen to the same thing or different things in different rooms. It can also be used in a 5.1 system with Denon's soundbars that support HEOS. So I mean, I wouldn't probably use a 350. I think that would be a bit big for a couple, you know, two of those as rear speakers with a soundbar would definitely be overkill. But the 150, for example, would make quite a useful little rear speaker. Two of those for a 5.1 system with, say, the Denon was it the S516 512H, which I reviewed a few months ago. You could use it with that, for example. So it's got multiple. You can also use them as stereo pairs. So if you had two of them, I mean, that would be 1,200 quid. So quite expensive, but you could use two of them as stereo pairs if you wanted to using HEOS as well. So it's quite flexible. Sounds great. It looks pretty. You know, it's not the prettiest. You know, it's essentially just a black.
I tell you
box.
what, though, if I was going to give,
did you do one of them? Did you do a 250 or 150 or something?
No, but the thing is, I did it. You're probably thinking of is I did on the Harman citations.
Like, yeah, it looks exactly like the Harman.
Well, no, but I was about to say, if I was going to give a financial tip, Biff Tannen style, to my past self, it would be to buy shares in Quadrat, the fabric.
Yes,
people,
yeah,
because everybody's using them. You couldn't go wrong with that. But I mean, it's one of those things. We can get sniffy about a sort of sober finish, but it's about appealing to the widest demographic that you can. And if you do it in mad colors and, you know, with dazzle ship patterns and stuff like that, it's gonna, for every person it attracts, it's gonna repel too. So I know exactly why they've done it, and I largely agree with it.
Yeah, it's essentially Steve, so I was going to say it's got fabric all the way around and a glossy top, and it comes in black or white, and there's a motion sensor. So when you put your hand near the top, you can, you know, change the volume and it lights up.
You mentioned other model numbers there, so I take it there's a range of these home speakers.
Yeah, 150, 250, 350.
Right. Okay.
I can't remember exactly what the 150 and 250 off the top of my head. I think the 150 is like a couple hundred quid, then it's like 400 quid, and then it's 600.
And the 150 is a different shape, but the 250 and the 350 are basically, it's like little and large. They are dimensionally, proportionally identical. Just one is bigger than the other.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean, certainly sound quality wise, you can't knock it. You know, if you're looking for a decent sound quality wireless speaker. And HEOS is a good system too. It's robust. The apps are, you know, you don't have to have your phone tethered to the speaker all the time in order to listen to things like Spotify, for example. So it's a good system, and flexible, and it sounds great. So definitely, I mean, it's not cheap though. I'll admit, £600 is a lot of money for a wireless speaker, but it's certainly, you know, at least you feel like you've got something that's quality and sounds great. So that's good.
Okay, is that the only thing you've been looking at?
No, the other one, that was another wireless speaker, and this is really interesting. It's Huawei Sound X. So this is their first, as far as I'm aware, their first wireless speaker. It certainly was launched earlier in China. It's been designed in conjunction with DeVillay, thank you, DeVillay, French audio company. And in China, it's got Wi-Fi and a built-in smart assistant. Granted, it speaks Mandarin, so it wouldn't belong to it outside of China. But it's a fully functioning smart speaker with 6 speakers built into it, 6 drivers in a 360-degree configuration, and 2 woofers as well. And it looks like a sort of a black egg, big black egg, basically. It sounds really good. It is a fantastic sounding speaker. The problem is that outside of China, it hasn't got Wi-Fi, no smart features. It's essentially just a Bluetooth speaker. I believe there are security issues with it having access to the Wi-Fi outside of China. Plus also, like I said, unless you speak Mandarin, the smart system wouldn't be much use. It doesn't work with iOS either, so you can only stream, you can Bluetooth connect to it with any Bluetooth device. But if you wanted to run their the Huawei app, you need an Android device. So it sounds fantastic, but it's not overly expensive. I think it's £299. So it's not ridiculously expensive. It sounds fantastic, but it is essentially outside of China. It's a Bluetooth speaker. So it's a good sounding Bluetooth speaker. I
don't know. I quite like the idea of one if it just randomly shouted in Chinese at you. You had no idea what it was saying. It's just to liven things up a bit. But
yeah.
But yeah, like I say, I actually thought it sounded really good. I was impressed with the sound quality. I just thought, obviously feature-wise, it's a bit limited.
Okay, good stuff. If you want to see more of those reviews, they're going to get published over the next week or so. They're in the system, ready to go. And wireless speakers, it's a new area of the market. It's been around for a while, but it's now starting to explode a little bit. It's becoming very, very popular. And it's an area that we're going to cover in a little bit more detail as the weeks go on as well. We've got a few more lined up, hopefully a few more of those products lined up. Right, so we're going to move on to Ed. Now, Ed's been listening to a set of speakers with the name just takes me back to the 80s, ElectroMotion. That's some kind of electric boogaloo hip-hop.
Giorgio Moroder was involved in that. So, yeah.
So
I've been looking at the MartinLogan ElectroMotion ESL, which if you are slightly obsessive compulsive like me, every time that you type in that, you're not allowed to use spaces, so it just it's a forest of red lines on a Word document. And it's the first electrostatic that we've looked at for AV forums, and it is completely different to anything else that we've had on it go through before. It is not a complete electrostatic speaker. Companies like Quad and King Sound make products where it is solely an electrostatic panel which drives the which produces the sound. MartinLogan takes the view that in order to make the product slightly more room friendly, they have a panel which handles 20 kilohertz down to 800 hertz, and then below that is a conventional 8-inch dynamic driver, which in the ElectroMotion is passive. Some of the larger models have active drivers, and that fills in from 800 hertz down to 42 hertz is the claimed figure. It is this is one where you really do have to read the review, because I have given the ElectroMotion ESL a recommended badge, and I will say categorically it is the best stereo pair of loudspeakers for using with a TV I have tested for AV forums at any price, because they simply produce, it's the same effect that Sony achieves with the driven panel speaker. You just get a huge unfettered wall of sound, but that makes it sound vague and diffuse, and it's not. Provided that you follow MartinLogan's instructions on how to position them, everything is placed exactly where it should be, but there's no sense of constraint to it. But within that, there are many limitations, and there are quite a few. I mean, essentially, the absolute headroom is limited. It's not the most ballistic loudspeaker you're ever going to hear. Obviously, the looks are an acquired taste. But I can categorically state that for some people listening to, if they sit down and listen to it, that will be a proper eureka moment. After that, any dynamic driver loudspeaker is just going to feel utterly constrained. So I gave it a recommended badge, but I do point out in the conclusion that you need to read the whole thing. And if it interests you, you need to get to a dealer and spend some time with them, because I do think for a number of people, nothing else will do. And it's one of those things, you know, like you have a sort of fantasy garage. If I could end up having just a wall of loudspeakers, a deliberate wall of loudspeakers, as opposed to what I've got in the hallway at the moment, there'd be the sort of thing where every now and again nothing else would do. When Phil and I were talking a podcast a couple of weeks back about that John Williams concert, listening to the John Williams concert on those, utterly outstanding. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm sure the Atmos version sounds pretty damn good, but I'm equally sure that anyone who owns a pair of those won't care, because you just height comes as standard. They are quite extraordinary loudspeakers. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Before I sign off on reviews, my review section, I'd just like to say thank you all for the feedback on the deep dive project, the album list thing. I have been popping in and out to have a look at things. I'll be providing some more feedback when I've got a minute, and we'll be kicking off. We're deciding on the genres to kick off with and working it out from there. But thank you very much for all contributing. I haven't been ignoring you. It's just been busy and frenetic, and I haven't had as much time as I'd like. But I've been weighing up stuff that's been said and so on and so forth, and we're going to crack on with the process once we've done our awards.
Okay. Lots of work there with that one, Ed. Good luck on that one.
Well, yeah, but you know, equally the idea of knowing that I've got a year's worth of stuff to be cracking on with is quite appealing. And the idea is, I know that, of course, of it, I'm going to find at least 20 albums which I've not heard before and that are bloody marvelous. That's the hope. So that's what I'm all up for. So all good.
Okay, good stuff. Just looking through the list, I don't see many questions tonight. If you have got questions, get them in. You can make a donation at the same time via streamlabs.com/avforums. And of course, you can also sign up to patreon.com/avforums if you want to support us on a regular basis. Licensed Taximan, hello. Any idea if and when the Marantz SR8015 might be due? Not for a while, because we actually got the 7015 for review first of all. So Steve is looking at that one for me. I was going to do it, but I still have NED to get through, and Lingdorf as well, which I'm working on, as well as the TV. So Steve will be covering the Denon, the Marantz SR7015. Have you got that in yet, Steve?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's working on that one as we speak. And I saw somebody mentioned the Lingdorf MT50 Salmon ad. He's just ordered one. So thanks for the recommendation.
Nice.
You're welcome. You'll love it. It's absolutely, when you get to that level of the market, choosing between them, you're talking about diminishing returns, really. But the thing is, for me, that helps with the Lingdorf is room perfect. It's really, really easy to use. You're not sitting messing around with graphs and curves and everything else. It does the job, and it does it great. And as a AV processor, it is absolutely stonking, especially with the music. I love sitting listening to music on it. It's very, very musical. Right. What else have we got there question-wise? The new Denon 110 anniversary, is it going to be a pimped 8500H?
I don't think it's that far up, is it?
Yeah, it's about the same level. So
is it? Okay.
I think it is. Is it 8500 or?
I don't think it. I think it's got the HDMI 2.1 input and so on.
It's got all that, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a few under the hood improvements. So yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure how many channels it's got built in, because the 8500's got 13 channels, isn't it? So
it has, yeah.
Yeah, you should know. You've got one sitting.
Well, I haven't used it for a while. Obviously, I've got the NAD and the Lingdorf in at the minute, so it's kind of sitting in a corner at the minute, looking sad for itself. But it'll get used again.
But yeah, the box for the SR7015, there's barely any space left for logos, because it's got so many features.
It's got all of them.
It's got everything. It's got everything
What's
you
it
can
got?
think of.
Everything.
In fact, I noticed someone's asked a question about Auro 3D. Here in Austria, the Auro 3D, because it's got Auro 3D, obviously. Here in Austria, the Auro 3D speaker setup is being pushed. What's your recommendation, Auro 3D or Atmos? Atmos.
Atmos, yeah.
About content.
It's content.
There's
Content
about 5. literally 3 Blu-rays with Auro 3D, and I've got hundreds of Atmos discs.
I've got to say, I do have a soft spot for Auro 3D, and the reason I have a soft spot is that myself and Steve, we went over to Galaxy Studios and met the founder of the technology a number of years ago now, and it was basically like, and I've been to Skywalker Ranch. It was basically like Skywalker Ranch in Europe. You know what I mean?
It was the European version of Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah, it's in Belgium, and it's just a fantastic facility. It's kind of a mix between Air Studios, Abbey Road Studios, and Skywalker Ranch in terms of the building and what they do and all the rest of it. And we had the Auro demonstrations. We met the sound mixers. We saw what they were doing with the technology, and it was fantastic. But unfortunately, when you're up against a company like Dolby and other companies like DTS and so on, you've got a big fight on your hands, especially in Hollywood. And if you're trying to, break into a market like that. So unfortunately, it hasn't gone the way that
it's a good system. Wilfred Van Balen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good system. It sounds fantastic. But the thing is, A, there's very little content.
Yeah.
And B, the speaker layout is significantly different to both Dolby and DTS. So whereas you can have a Dolby, say a 7.1.4 system with 4 overhead speakers for Dolby, and you can use that just as equally for DTS, with Auro, it's a completely different approach where you have height speakers above, the front 3 channels and the surrounds, and then a voice of God channel directly above you. And because of that, you can't really you either have to have 2 completely different installations running off the same system, off the same processor, or, you have to go with one or the other. And on the basis alone of just, the fact that like Disney Plus uses Atmos, and, Apple uses Atmos, and Netflix uses Atmos, and most discs are Atmos, then, obviously go for Atmos.
Yeah. I mean, you got to hand it to Dolby. I mean, I think Blu-ray hurt them. Blu-ray hurt them enough and they were a big sleeping giant, and I think that was a good enough kick up the backside for them to get their act together.
Fairly proactive since that point.
They have been incredibly proactive since then. Interesting question from Martin Hamilton. And he says, how come the LG C10 looks slightly cyan when side by side with the HZ1500? In fact, all the Panasonics, when they've both been calibrated. Well, if you had a calibrated LCD and a calibrated OLED sitting next to each other, white will look slightly different on them because of the technology used to create the image. What Panasonic are doing is they're doing a little bit of tuning behind the scenes to make white look like video white, whereas WRGB OLED does have an inherent cyan look. And if you've ever been to any of the events that myself and Steve have done in the past, or whether that be Bristol Show or some of the Philips events where we did the shootouts and that kind of thing, if you put an LCD with a calibrated white next to an OLED with a calibrated white, they look different. OLED looks cyan, whereas LCD looks a little bit more yellow. And I don't know what Panasonic are actually doing. They won't obviously tell you that because it's proprietary, the same as how they won't actually tell you what they're doing with the master OLED panel and so on. But speaking with the engineers, and I spoke to them at length, and Paul at Panasonic, trying to get as much information as I can, they're basically doing a little bit of tuning behind the scenes on the panel, which makes white look that way. So, and it's like everything else. I mean, calibration, you're going to use different, you're going to have perceptually different looks to set. If it's the same technology and you calibrate them to the same standards, they will look the same. If they're slightly different technologies or slightly different panels, once you've calibrated them, then you sometimes if you're going to run them side by side, you'll have to perceptually match them, which is why some calibration controls will let you do that. If you do a CalMan and AutoCal, for example, on 2 different sets and one slightly looks different than the other, you can then go back into the system and change your white point to perceptually match the 2 panels. I hope that answers your question, Martin Hamilton. We could spend hours on the subject. I have tried to make that as sweet as I can, short and sweet as I can, and not get overly technical, but that's basically what's happening with that one. Right, I think we've done everything hardware-wise. If you've got any more questions, get them coming in. We'll come back to it before we finish up on the podcast tonight. But we've got an important section to do next because it's movies and TV. So it's called software. So as well as doing this on a Wednesday evening, which is new for us, and it will be a Wednesday evening going forward. So change your diaries. Make sure you get the podcast in there and join us on a Wednesday night for that. We split the podcast into two sections. So we've had hardware, we're now moving on to software. Now, software is not just film stuff. We're also going to do Ed's music choice of the week. Yes, but that's everybody on the team, though. So if anybody's been listening to anything particularly good this week, then now's the time to mention it. We're also going to move on to a film review, although I know it's on the running order. There's nothing in there, Tom. So have you got a film to review, or are we going to skip over that and go?
No, I'm hoping to talk about Devil All the Time. So
okay. So we're going to do that. We're going to do some film news because sadly it wasn't this week, but it was the week previous. Diana Rigg passed away, so we'll talk about that as well. There's some trailers to go through, and then we've got some TV shows. So
busy.
This is going to be a busy section, which is why I've gone to it 10 minutes earlier than we normally do, because I think this bit's going to go on for a bit. So anyway, let's move on to music choice of the week. Ed, what is it?
Right. Well, after depressing you all with Tricky last podcast, this is altogether more chipper and a bit smoother. This is I believe he's German trumpeter called NILS WULKER, jazz trumpeter. But he's got this album out called Go. And like the Moby album of the same name, there's a little bit of electronica stitched through it. I've really enjoyed this album. It's not the most ballistic thing going. It's not the most, it doesn't have the same, I don't believe it was created under the same circumstances as the Tricky album from last time, but it's one of those ones where I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. And if you do watch television, you will hear tracks from it in the next year, because that's how it works. There are people behind the scenes whose job I've long lusted after, choosing music for TV and adverts. And they'll be listening to that and going, yeah. And then you can be smug and go, oh, I know that. That's NILS WULKER when you hear it in the next 12 months. It's on all the major streaming services. Stuart behind the scenes very kindly put the limited edition vinyl up. If you do want that, it is not for sale in the United Kingdom. It's being sold in Germany, Switzerland and Austria, I think, which is a bit of Germany, Austria and Switzerland. So needless to say, it's quite expensive in the UK. I haven't ruled it out, but we'll see how we go on that. So it's not going to be my vinyl recommendation of the month, but you don't necessarily need to. It sounds lovely on digital, and it's on all the major streaming services, and it's well worth a listen.
I had a listen to it after you
suggested.
So yeah, after you pushed this on us earlier, and I'm enjoying it. I'm getting my teeth into it. It's good recommendation, solid.
If you want good recommendations, Ed's your man. I've got him on my Skype, and I just if I'm bored and I need something new to listen to, it either pops up from Ed or I'll badger him for something. For me this week, I've actually it's almost Thursday. I think we can get away with Throwback Thursday. I've been listening to an album I fell in love with back in the 90s, and that's Attack of the Grey Lantern by Manson. Absolutely fantastic. I found the collector's edition on the streaming service. Hadn't heard it for a number of years. The Chad That Loved Me, Tax Stock. There's some absolute classic in there. I mean, they're mostly known for Wide Open Space, which I think was their breakthrough single, and I don't think it lasted long after that. I think they only did 2 albums before splitting up, but it's a fantastic album. I've thoroughly enjoyed rediscovering it this week. So there was that one, and the other one I was just going to quickly mention is I believe it's a Netflix series called White Lines, but the music from that, it's by Junkie XL. I've been really enjoying that. It's a good mix of electronic stuff and
Stripper Vicar.
Stripper Vicar, yeah. I mean, the whole album's brilliantly constructed. I mean, it's a story all the way through about this, the vicar and all the rest of it, and it's excellent.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to give that a listen now. You've reminded me of that.
I do have a recommendation for you as well, Steve. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Suzanne Vega, she of Tom's Diner. From
Marlena Watches from the Wall.
Yes.
Is that her? Yeah.
Well, she's got a live album out. And the eponymous Tom's Diner, she does it right at the end. She goes all the way through the rest of her catalogue and reminds you of all the good stuff that she's done as well as that. But Tom's Diner is the most archetypal late 80s, early 90s sounding thing. The 7-inch single is iconic. And the way that she has reworked it for the live performance is absolutely spellbinding. I must have listened to it about 15 or 20 times in the last couple of days because it sounds absolutely fantastic. Well worth a listen, but I think you might just enjoy what she's done with it. Just thinking off the top of my head.
Speaking of live albums, hasn't arrived yet, but I managed to get my grubby paws on a copy of John and Moni Dancing Again, which is Bowie live from the second leg of the Diamond Dogs tour in '74, after he'd gone and taken a break, knocked up Young Americans, because that's the god Bowie was at the time. And so he started to add Young Americans tracks to the set list, and it became more of a soul review show. So I'm looking forward to get my hands on that.
Good.
Sorry, Phil?
I've forgotten now.
I've been listening to music. I've been listening to music. I've been listening to good music.
Have you got your strobe light on?
I have. It's lovely, isn't it? I rediscovered this week there was a news story that came out on their entertainment news, which you shouldn't really read, but it was interesting, that Les Claypool of Primus has been hanging out with DC superhero Jason Momoa and just knocking out Primus tunes together. So I put on Sailing the Seas of Cheese again, and it is still awesome. It's been ages since I listened to that, maybe like 15 years, but it's still really good. And also, this is a recommendation for Ed.
Yeah.
You know Young Knives?
Yes.
They have recently put a new album together called
Shut up.
Barbarians, and it is not anything like you have ever heard them do before.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I haven't decided yet. I'm still listening to it and deciding whether I love it or not, because their last album...
That's positive. If you need a bit of thinking, I'm all up for that. But Superabundance is a masterpiece. So
isn't it just? And I grew to really love Sick Octave as well, which was their sort of departure from their, basic indie roots, which is what they were at the beginning of the...
I just like the fact that they deal with angst in the same way that I do. So that was always very good. Just very quickly, Marcus Aurelius, aka Golden Phoenix, what are your thoughts on the excessive pricing of super deluxe editions? Do you think they represent good value musically? Looking beyond the sat, no, I don't think they represent good value at all.
But if you like Tat, they're great.
If you like Tat, then go for it. No, I believe the disconnect. I mean, don't get me wrong. Every now and again, I mean, the Prince reissues probably worth it. Steve would argue that some of the Bowie ones have been quite good. Nothing that Floyd has done has been worth the preposterous asking prices attached to it in the last 15 years. I mean, that really is flogging the dead horse until bits of it fall off. No, it's not my thing. I'm sorry. I don't very rarely go for any of them myself. I don't consider them to be good value at all. There you go.
Just one curiosity that I've found on Tidal recently, where I've been working my way through the Dolby Atmos stuff. I don't know if Steve's been doing it or not, but I'm slowly working my way through a lot of the playlists, trying to find stuff. There was a couple of tracks. There was one by Public Enemy and there was one by LL Cool J. Typical late 80s, early 90s hip hop, and they've been redone with an orchestra and remixed. And I've got to say, you think, that's not going to work. It actually does. It's bloody good. So if you've got Dolby Atmos and you got Tidal, two recommendations there: Public Enemy and LL Cool J. Knock your mother out, or I'm going to knock you out, I think it is.
Mama said knock you out.
Mama said knock you out. Thank you. Been a while.
Got there in the end.
Got there in the end. Right, so that's our music done. Let's move on to films. What are you going to review
just very
for
quickly,
us?
Martin Hamilton, I will put the album title into the podcast comments, so don't worry about that.
All right, okay. Right, go on then. You've waited all podcasts for this. On you go.
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched a movie just released today on Netflix, called The Devil All the Time, based on a novel of the same name from about 15 years ago. And it's a chronicle of the suffering, basically, of a family in small town America, set after the end of between the end of the Second World War and the Vietnam War, really. And it is relentlessly bleak.
Hooray!
Yeah, great.
It sometimes to its detriment. Mostly, it is a really interesting dissection of the binding together of the American dream and violence, like how you can't have one without the other. And the violence in The Devil All the Time is brutal, and it puts to rights the sort of rose-tinted, nostalgic look at
Bill Haley in the comments. Sort of.
Yeah, how great America was in the 50s, what a simple time it was, and what a beautiful time, and everyone was happy, and it just lays that myth to rest. And it goes over the top in a number of ways. I don't want to talk about it too much because obviously we'll be moving into spoiler territory. And also, I'm currently writing a review about it, which will go up on the website.
So where did you watch it, Tom?
It's on Netflix.
Platform? It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, released today on Netflix. But it is very, there is a firm hand steering the direction. Antonio Campos, who previously did Christine, who Ed brought up.
Carpenter.
Not the scary car movie, the reader who committed suicide live.
That!
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good film.
Yeah. So he also did, I think it's called After School, something like that anyway, which is also, it's got Ezra Miller in, who's more famous now for being the Flash, but again it's a really hard watch. And I've got a feeling that this is going to shoot to the top of my list of films this year that are amazing that I never need to see again.
It's a special list, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm done that, and it's
I
going
love
into the sealed box.
I love that experience. I love to watch a film and at the end of it go, good Lord, I will never see that again, but I'm glad I watched it this time. And
I started watching. I'm thinking of quitting. No,
thinking of ending things.
Thinking of ending things.
Mhm.
And then after 5 seconds, turned off in disgust because it was 4:3, and I thought this is not 1980.
I mentioned that in the review. It's a quirk. It's a quirk that I don't really understand. Like, I get the closed-in spaces, and but it's not necessary, I don't think.
Well, I'm slightly concerned because I'm obviously really looking forward to Zack Snyder's 4-hour version of Justice League, but apparently he's releasing it 4:3.
Oh, of course he is.
So, what the hell?
Yeah, you do Zack Snyder.
I'm less excited now.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it was shot. I mean, it wasn't. No, it's not scope. It was shot for 1.85 to 1, presumably. So, that's presumably the ratio you composed it for its original cinema release.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna heartily endorse The Devil All the Time, but don't watch it if you're feeling a bit rubbish. Don't watch it if you're feeling a little bit sad.
Do it as a double bill with I'm thinking of ending things.
Yeah.
Really laugh a minute, 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Wrap it off with Joker, just to.
Yeah,
Joker's good though.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of ending things is good. That's the best movie of the year. Come on, man.
That's silly what Mark Commode thinks.
I'm sorry. Are you telling me that it's better than The Last Days of American Crime? Because I'm having a hard time believing it.
Do you know what? Last Days of American Crime. At least it wasn't in bloody 4:3. Jesus.
Never mind the dialogue. Look at all of the screen lit up. Hooray!
Shame Kaz isn't on this because I watched Spies in Disguise on Saturday night, which I thoroughly
Pigeon movie.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know. It's bizarre though because it's got a black super agent and Tom Holland voicing the main protagonist, who ends up going to Venice and being chased by an army of drones. Hang on a minute, isn't that the plot of Spider-Man: Far From Home?
Maybe that's why they delayed it so many times. We can't.
Oh, and the villain is also Ben Mendelsohn, who's also in it. Yeah, I don't know, but it was quite nice. It was quite a fun movie. It was perfectly enjoyable. I think Kaz was quite keen on it. So
yes, he was.
I think we better move things on just time-wise. Right, so the sad news that Diana Rigg passed away on the 10th of September, which was in the long period that we were not
She
on
was
the
89,
podcast.
wasn't she? So
She was, yes.
82.
82, yeah.
82 was it? Yeah, okay, it's decent.
I mean, it's not a bad age. It's not a tremendously advanced age in 2020, but nevertheless, a life well lived. It must be.
I think I was a little bit young to have a crush on her, but I think for a certain age group, massive crush on her back
I
in
don't
the...
know. I watched Avengers reruns when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
the Avengers, but I mean, obviously, when I was a
Boy.
kid, I had a crush on Purdy, Joanna Lumley, in the new
Okay,
Avengers,
yeah.
followed by Sapphire and Steel.
Yeah, but she was very, very attractive.
Yes.
Had a very Bond girl look. Yeah, absolutely. The only Bond girl to get married to marry James Bond
So far.
Yeah, for all
so
the good
far.
it did,
Yeah.
Yes. She actually got to marry him. She's actually a proper actress in a film where Bond has an emotional arc, which is actually quite nice to see.
Yeah, and obviously she worked her whole life as well, so it wasn't just
Game
a
of
few
Thrones.
years.
As I said to Ed last week, best use of the
just
C word in a
it's
dramatic series ever.
It's a shame that news bulletins couldn't sign off with that, because it is absolutely magnificent.
Basically, she got to do it in Game of Thrones, and then Annette Crosby absolutely has a field day with the C word in the second season of Afterlife. So it's good to see older actresses really enjoying themselves by being able to say things they could never have said 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. So,
I mean, she did come out with a quote saying that the older you get, the funnier life becomes, or something like that. So she was, she worked her whole life. She gave everything she had on screen. I mean, she's a brilliant actress. So yeah.
And she was in the Tetris, which was a little gem that Mackenzie Crook did, where her daughter plays her daughter in the series, which was a nice little touch.
Yeah. Good stuff. Right, let's move on. Lots of trailers out at the moment for movies that don't appear to be coming this year. So, so let's cover the movie trailers. I noticed that Wonder Woman 1984 is down there. I saw the trailer the other day, and Kaz mentioned it, and Kaz said there's a music track used in there, which is
not the second trailer.
Yeah, which is Blue Monday, and I went searching for it.
In there. It's amazing. It's a really good cover.
So it's by
shut up, Ed. It's a good cover.
No,
it's a good cover. I liked it.
The same thing as he's done with everything else, and he's simply crushed Blue Monday into it. There's no nuance to it. It's just gash.
Hey, it's fun. It's entertaining.
The only good thing about the trailer.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
And
he does trailer music, and it's great. So
once you see is it the cheetah? Is that the name of the bad guy in Wonder Woman 84? Oh man, the CGI, they've screwed the pooch on that. It looks god awful. Why have they put that in the trailer? Looks hideous. It's worse than David Thewlis as like beefy Ares at the end of the first movie.
Is it worse than the original Sonic the Hedgehog as he appeared in the trailers before they completely retconned him and denied his existence?
That is funny. That's got to be the funniest thing that's ever happened. At least with a CGI character, they could do that. You know,
and indeed did do that.
Yeah,
they presumably took the original animators out the back and shot them. So
to make a reference that's really going to turn Ed off this movie, it looks like something out of Cats.
Well, I don't know. Again, one of these days I'm going to watch Cats, but it will have to be free, and I will have to be off my face.
It shouldn't be too long before it turns up on Amazon Prime.
I agree,
sure.
and sooner or later I will be sufficiently gone that I will revel in its awfulness. But if you're saying this in a good way, then no.
I had a modicum of excitement for Wonder Woman 84, but seeing the
you have to wait a bit, unfortunately, because it's not coming out till
December now, isn't it? Christmas release. So. James Bond as well. That trailer dropped, the second trailer for that. That I've got to say, adrenaline-wise, it's got me more interested than the first trailer did. So, No Time to Die.
If it comes out in November.
If it comes out.
We'll see.
And I'll be amazed if June's still coming out. Well, I know it's supposed to still be coming out on the 18th of December, but it seems strange that Warner would release two films within a week of each other when it's not like anyone's charging to the cinema at the moment. I mean, Tenet hasn't done particularly well.
They need to be careful with June because they've only made part one. So if
it's got to be a hit, otherwise we won't get the second bit.
Exactly. So if they're going to delay it to get the numbers, then that's okay by me because I don't want to go in and then come out with the proverbial blue appendages.
So is it looking any good? Because I haven't seen the trailer. I'm watching it now because Stuart's playing it on the video thing. But
it looks great.
I think it depends on your
great.
point of view, doesn't it? Really, if you're a fan of Lynch's film and the book, you're loving it. If you know nothing about Dune, you're probably thinking, "Oh, that looks interesting." Interesting that they used Pink Floyd in the trailer because
clips, right?
Ralphie was originally going to use Pink Floyd,
right? That's
movie, so
a nice little nod.
To that. It looks great. I mean, they've obviously it looks epic. It's got an amazing cast. Villeneuve is a fantastic filmmaker, and the money's on screen.
I mean, visually the trailer it looks stunning.
The money's on screen.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now, and that's on a tiny little screen. It looks stunning.
Yeah.
He makes amazing movies that make no money, which is
I mean, Blade Runner a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably be tempted out of my house to see this. Possibly, we'll see. But I do think they should be sensible and delay it because it doesn't. It needs maximum audience. It's not an innate. People will automatically go and see this film at the best of times. So any impediment to that is not going to help it.
No, it doesn't even have the like the cultural currency of Blade Runner. This is for a lot of people going to be based entirely on the trailer.
And it doesn't even have Sting in metal pants. So
I know, but well, you never know. They've not revealed who's going to be playing Fade Ralphie yet. So come on, Sting.
A little bit old for that part now.
No.
Okay, so I think that covers the film side of things. Let's move on to TV. I'm excited about Star Wars again now.
Are you?
I've gone off Star Wars for a long time, but Mandalorian has played a blinder. I loved season 1. The season 2 trailer, you didn't get to see much. You kind of know where things, or you kind of suspect, but they're good at this. They're good at like sending you down.
I think all you saw in that trailer was the first episode.
Yeah, probably. But it looks great. I wasn't sure about the Baby Yoda thing. I thought, well, it's maybe a bit fantastic characterization.
Merchandiser's dream.
Yeah, but it works. It works, and I really enjoyed season 1. I'm looking forward to season.
Look, just very quickly, I'm looking at the comments coming in about Dune. There's not a lot of optimism amongst our listeners for the prospects of Dune, which I think is a shame. But we'll see how we go. I don't necessarily disagree, but I want to believe Mulder style that it might do all right.
Well, I mean, what was interesting was, and we'll come back to Mandalorian in a sec, was some of the figures were released this week for Mulan through Disney Plus in terms of how much money it's made. And it was only about
there's estimates. It's like 30 to 40 million, I think.
Yeah.
And they're going to vaguely massage the Disney Plus figures, but what they can't massage is how it's bombed in China, which is not what they wanted. It's kind of the opposite of the point of the movie, as far as I can tell. So
I haven't seen the movie, but I watched the honest trailers on Screen Junkies, and I don't think I need to see it now because I think they covered it quite well.
The thing is, though, if it made 30 to 40 million, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say it made 40 million.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what Tenet made. But for Disney, that's all cheddar. It gets the whole lot. There's nothing, no middleman for them to give the money to. So, you kind of wonder whether opening in the cinema was such a good idea.
Well,
it depends because we've not seen the end of Tenet's run yet.
Well, it's got longer to go. Plus, obviously, there's no films coming out now until November. So it's got
until ever.
So I was
it won't be.
Let's be honest, maybe not.
People aren't rushing out to see it, but they might be sauntering out over the next
more likely they'll watch it on VOD when that becomes an option.
Possibly, yeah.
Basically, people don't want to cinema because I'm not going to die to see Tenet.
It's a shame because it's like it's a cinema
might kill
experience.
myself to see Dune.
Yeah, fair enough.
Do you think? Do you think you'll be able to understand the dialogue on your home cinema system, Steve? Watching
you can stick the subtitles on your home cinema.
That's an option.
You know what'll happen, Tom? It'll come up on screen saying unintelligible.
Yeah,
unintelligible.
Double dialogue.
Go for the audio descriptive showing.
Anyway, Mandalorian season 2. It says 30th October. We had no confirmation though that that's Disney Plus in the UK, other than it was on their Facebook, the UK Facebook
sure
page.
It will be.
It better be. There will be a riot because
no, it will be. It will be.
They've got no reason to delay it now. They're releasing everything else.
Subscriptions March. Subscriptions in March because everybody signed up.
Yeah,
in
but
March.
They're still holding all of their Marvel stuff in reserve. So I think that's going to be their pull for their next subscription block.
Right, because there's going to be
with that.
There's going to be a lot that do not renew who went for the 40, because I went for the $49.99 deal.
Likewise,
lots of people did. I won't be renewing because I haven't used the service.
I do watch episodes of The Simpsons, but whether I want to pay
use
50,
it quite a bit.
I've got Sky. It's Simpsons are on all the time.
I don't have Sky, and I have to say, just being able to go, oh, I suddenly really fancy watching Homer's Enemy now, and I can is weirdly compelling. So if I can continue to do that for another £50 a year, I probably will do that purely on the strength of watching random episodes of The Simpsons, which is tragic. But
new DuckTales. The new DuckTales is amazing. Silence.
Okay, managed to kill that one.
Yeah.
I think the next one we're going to kill, because I think we're going to disagree with this one, Tom, is Star Trek Discovery. The new season starts on the 15th of October.
Why are we going to disagree?
Because the last season was terrible.
Yeah, it's like the worst Star Trek ever made. Why?
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get any arguments from anyone. Yeah.
So a rare moment of unanimity.
It's
Not necessarily great news for Star Trek, but
is it definitely coming to Netflix? I thought Netflix weren't too keen to take season 3.
Oh, God. Well,
I don't know.
And CBS All Access are having problems selling their product, so they are now changing their name to Paramount Plus in order to fool people into thinking it's a new service. But yes, Discovery season 3. Who's going to be like? I think all we need.
So who put two thumbs up from Tom on the running order? Then who?
I imagine that's Kaz trolling me.
All right. Okay. Okay, I thought we were going to have an argument here because I thought Tom cannot like this season.
No, it's like there isn't a single coherent story to the whole thing.
And if as Steve said, if you want Star Trek, watch the Orville.
Yeah, absolutely. Orville's great, fantastic. You're not going to get any arguments from me on that. I think what they've done though is they've rebooted this because it wasn't working in the Star Trek universe. The Star Trek fans didn't like it, so it's now set in the future, isn't it? It's 300 or 400 years in the future.
Nearly 900 years in the future.
Is it 900 years?
The same time period, I think, as one of those early short treks that they released in between season 1 and season 2.
Oh, I didn't even bother with them.
Yeah, well, don't. They're rubbish. But the point about Discovery that I made, or that I keep making, is that I challenge anybody to name the bridge crew. We are 2 seasons into
you're right.
Star
Michael
Trek.
Burnham is the only one I can remember.
Michael Burnham, you've got Saru, and you've got occasionally Tilly. There are at least 4 other people on the bridge, and I cannot name a single one of them. And that's not a good sign, is it?
Who's the guy that makes them jump? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, right. One of the half robot ladies, the mostly robot lady, she's gone now.
One who the actress playing her changed between 2 seasons and no one noticed.
They don't know what they're doing.
It's Car Crash TV. And talking about crashes.
Oh, yeah.
Did you like that? That was a nice little segue. That. Air Crash Investigation is back, Ed, on...
yes, I'm going to watch it after this whilst I enjoy my late
special report. Now, it's stuff that we've seen before.
I haven't.
Okay, but the ones I watched this week, which is the first of the season, it was old crashes. It was the one in Mexico City with the government official on board.
I did see that one, but I've never seen the Reno Air Race.
The other one was LA, where the little Piper clips the DC-10 and both crash. So there's a few that you've seen before, but it's an interesting revisit of a lot of the investigations and stuff. And you get 3 or 4 per episode rather than just concentrating on one. So if you like planes crashing,
that's a very poor way. If you are fascinated by the mechanics, how we make air travel safer.
For me, it's the investigation side of things. It's the whole way of doing that, and I've got a background in that, so that's why I'm interested in it, because
I do get the feeling when they finally are allowed to make it, the undoubted feature-length special on the 737 MAX is going to be brutal.
Yes, it is. And by the way, when I said I had some background in it, that's not crashing planes. That's I'm a trained investigator, so that's why I'm interested in it, not crashing the planes. And I noticed that Stuart's picked up the Selley episode, which was one of the best ones.
Yes,
that they did.
Have they done an episode on whatever happened to that Malaysian flight?
I think they've done 2
on that.
Yeah, they've done 2.
And they've also done the other one that was shot down by the Russians. So
allegedly.
Oh,
Not allegedly. I think.
Yeah, I just don't find
Russians or Ukrainians, Russian-backed Ukrainians.
Yes, it is beyond dispute. It was hit by a Buck missile. The exact identity of the man who pressed the firing teat was.
I advise you not to cast aspersion on magnificent Russia.
Oh God, did you see that?
Yeah, I don't want Novichok on my door handle. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, occupational hazard.
So allegedly.
Did you see that clip of the Belarusian president having a conference with Putin? The body language, unbelievable.
Practically genuflecting in front of Putin, wasn't it?
It was. It's like I'm not an expert on body language, but bloody hell, it was really quite obvious
what was going on there.
Yeah. So quite something. But no, air crash investigation. Can I also say? It's not the most dynamic television, but it's deliberately not the most dynamic television. Another series of Mortimer and Whitehouse gone fishing. I love those.
Oh yeah, absolutely love that.
That's good TV.
Yeah,
absolutely great TV.
And the last episode, Sunday's episode, River Test, was where I grew up. Provided that you understand that the River Test is essentially a bonsai river. If it was left to its own devices, it would not look like that. But I maintain it's one of the single most beautiful things in the world.
One of the, it's only on once a month, and then when they take a break, it could be off the screen for a number of months. But Sky at Night, I absolutely love Sky at Night. I think it's just, it's one of the, and obviously the one that was out yesterday is talking about the life on Venus. So that's interesting.
Very peculiar.
So yeah, it's easy watching TV, and you learn something as well. Hopefully, you learn something while you're watching it as well. And sports fans, it's a shame that Mark's not on. NFL's back. And I've got to say, the Americans do sport better than anybody else. COVID might be happening. You wouldn't know it looking at the NFL. It's back to normal. Everybody.
There's no audiences, no crowd, is there?
There's some stadiums have crowds. They're doing tests and all the rest of it. So some stadiums have crowds, some don't. But no, it's great. It's back again. I absolutely love watching it. It's a great way of spending 17 hours on a game. So.
Le Mans happening presently as well, isn't it?
Yes, I believe that is happening.
So yes, that's it's all good. Mark is just someone's asked, how is Mark? Mark is fine.
Yes,
but essentially, Mark was always a special guest for specific podcasts, and Mark's hardware is vintage. That was the word he used. And the switch to video placed demands upon it that it was not comfortable with. We may yet see Mark in the future. We don't know.
We might, because again, we've moved to our midweek. So
maybe we could get him for Christmas.
Maybe.
I'll ask him present.
Yeah.
I just seen on the chat there's Orion V75 also mentioned Raised by Wolves TV show.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, not the Catelyn Moran TV show.
I was about to say, this is not the one. Really? What?
Ridley Scott's new series for HBO, which some sort of robo-drama set in the far future after
Ridley Scott hasn't made anything decent since the 70s.
Well, apparently this is doing really well. I've seen lots of people recommend it, and it's got your staple Ridley Scott android in, full of milk, so that's quite good. But we don't know when it's coming to Sky Atlantic. I'm wondering if they're going to wait for the whole series to drop in the US, or don't know. Very much looking forward to that. Hopefully it's
so it'll look shit then in this country.
Well, yeah.
Wow, I have just looked at the clock, and we're actually 8 minutes ahead of time. And
we've hurried us up.
We've almost finished what we set out to do. It's unheard of.
Bye, everyone.
don't get used to it.
Yeah. So I think we got some time for questions. So people have got questions out there, then put them in the chat if you're watching on the live video.
You might need to explain. Someone going trained investigator. He's not. Phil isn't a PI.
No.
Is a retired.
Retired. Yeah, retired for a long time. 12 years I've been retired from that.
I can't help you with that, mate.
No, it's good. It's well in the past, previous life. But anyway, what was that?
PI Phil, like Magnum PI. Get more Hawaiian shirts and a mustache.
I'll tell you what, if I get a Ferrari 308 then in the bargain, then
if you owned a Ferrari 308 in County Durham, it would last at best 8 months before it's simply dissolved by the roads.
Well, it'd either dissolve or I'd go out one morning and it'd be sitting on bricks and the wheels would be gone. Yeah. So, so if you've got questions, get them in now. Now is the time because we're going to be wrapping up very soon. So if you have got questions, also if you're listening to the audio only version, you want to ask questions, then do that. You can do that. Send them to podcast@avphones.com. Don't forget to like the video if you are watching during the week or if you're watching right now. Please hit the like button. It's really important because it helps the video get found on searches and so on. And if it gets lots of likes, YouTube algorithm tends to pay attention to that and put us in front of new audiences. So if you like what you've been watching this evening, then please do hit the like button so that can happen. Now, Tom not only does the podcast, not only writes reviews, but he's also a star of his own videos in his own right. So tell us all about Tom's Thumbs and why Tom's Thumbs is special.
Yeah, you can tune into the YouTube channel and just watch me witter on about garbage that's coming to streaming services. 2 videos a month, one Netflix every month because they tend to have a fair amount coming out. The other was just Amazon Prime, but after last month's was just so dire. We're going to expand that to Amazon now, a few of the streaming services. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about things like The Mandalorian as well.
Actually, something that warrants a thumbs up.
Well, exactly. The next one's going to be a Netflix video. Stuff coming to Netflix in October includes The Haunting of Bly Manor. So anyone who watched The Haunting of Hill House last year, that was excellent. So I'll be talking a bit about The Haunting of Bly Manor and the 40-year-old version, which is Rada Black's movie based on her stage show, which also looks super interesting. So keep a lookout for that on YouTube very soon.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Right, so let's quickly move over to questions because Gustavo has obviously pointed out that we did promote Sony projectors in the title of this podcast, and it is on the running order. I've just checked; it is under news. Yeah, for some reason, we skipped past it. So Gustavo was asking about these Sony projectors. So there were 3 projectors announced. One's £80,000, so I don't think we need to worry about that. It's professional market.
I don't know. Give Steve a couple of years and they'll be
allegedly it can do 10,000 lumens from a laser projector. I haven't seen it yet. I guess if I'm going to see that one, I'll have to go to Sony to see it. I have had an invite, but with COVID and so on, I haven't bothered going down. But the VW590 and the VW790 are the native home cinema projectors. They're a little bit cheaper this time around. I've noticed, pricing isn't that bad for the technology you're getting. The reason for that, there's not a lot new here. And I know Sony
I thought it was quite disappointing, actually.
It was really disappointing. And the main disappointment for me is I haven't seen one yet. I haven't tested it yet, but the wording on the press release infers that it has dynamic tone mapping, yet it doesn't. From what I've seen.
And I think deliberately, and I think that shows that I suspect JVC are killing them right now in terms of projector sales, because the N7 and the N5 and the NX9, they've been around now for 2 years, but they've had 2 major firmware updates, adding genuinely useful new features. Whereas I honestly think the Sony projectors, I mean, I did the VW1000 review. When was that? 2013?
Yeah, probably.
To be honest, those projectors haven't really changed that much. I mean, they've been on the back of the fact that they had a monopoly for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I did look at the 790 and the 760 ES models. Great projectors, but the one thing that they don't have is dynamic tone mapping, which is where JVC really do score, because they do have that on board. It's a genuinely useful feature. There are other ways of getting that onto your projectors. There is a device called is it Mad VX or something?
You can get a Mad VR or you can use Lumigen.
Oh, the Lumigen, yeah. But again, you're spending more money on top of, and these are reduced price, but it doesn't look like they've got new features. We will get them in for review. I'll give them a fair crack of the whip when they do come in, or Steve might look at one and I'll look at the other. We'll certainly have a look at them. We'll see what we think. But just looking at how things are being discussed at the moment online with people who have seen them, it doesn't look like there's much change in there. Interestingly, interesting news, Rotel are launching 2 AV surround processors, Steve, which I found really interesting.
One's an amp.
Yeah, so
one's a processor and one's an amp.
Yeah, so I mean, these look interesting as well. I haven't seen much from Rotel in a number of years now. I think the last thing I reviewed from them was the last processor and power amp, which was a number of years ago now. So again, these are interesting products and something that I'm looking forward to seeing at some point, probably over the winter months when the TVs dry up, because I'm almost sick of.
We've got the wrong Rotel pick up.
Yeah, that's not the right Rotel.
Oh, that's the Rotel that I want to look at, not the Rotel that Phil wants to look at. So,
yeah, it's the RSP-1576 Mark II and the RAP-1580 Mark II.
It's good to see that they've got their good snappy titles on.
Yeah, excellent. Right, so yeah, I think we're about ready to wrap up. I'm looking through. I can't see anything jumping out at me. Steve, you seen anything?
I don't see him.
I'd just like to express my slight disappointment. These Rotel, they look quite cool, but there was a period where Rotel AV products looked like they were made out of the bits that Lockheed Martin threw away. They honestly were the most menacing looking components that you could buy, and these look a bit friendly. I don't like that. I want it to look like pressing a button on it will blow up something. And yeah, I don't know if they've got that quite right, but these should be interesting products. I mean, people want to get in the comments section sort of just shot into immediate, oh, it doesn't have X, it doesn't have Y. And yes, you know, specification is vital and future proofing does matter, but there is always more to it than just what boxes are ticked and so on and so forth. And historically, Rotel AV equipment has always been bob on, so I would be interested to see how these products perform.
Yeah, interesting that Dirac's on there. Interesting to see more manufacturers adding that to their AV amps and processors and so on. Condo 007 asks, the best Atmos or DTS-X 4K Blu-ray, Steve?
It's Emmanuel, isn't it? No, sorry, that's not.
It's not 4K, unfortunately. What else got really good? Well, I mean, you know, look, I'm going to go old school here. DTS-X, you can't beat Jurassic Park. It's a cracking DTS-X mix, and the first 20 minutes of Private Ryan and Atmos.
Yeah,
it's as close as I ever want to get to being in combat.
Yeah, no, some absolutely stonking Atmos. We'd be here all night. I think that's a subject for.
There's a lot. I was just
doing
a podcast. You know, I'm just thinking of what I can think of too. But yeah, there's.
When we all lock down again, we'll cover that as a specific extended.
Don't do this.
Yeah, and I'm going to recommend one that's a 5.1 mix, but it is so expertly done. It is absolutely astonishing, and that's Dunkirk. 5.1 soundtrack, and it's old school, and it's absolutely amazing. So if you want something to test your system out without using the ceiling speakers, there you go. It's a cracking disc. Right, so that about wraps everything up. All we need to do is do our podcast special competition.
Yes, indeed. So I mentioned at the top of the show that you can win a copy of 21 Bridges starring Chadwick Boseman on Blu-ray. So all you have to do is answer the following question. Which of these films marked Chadwick Boseman's first Black Panther appearance? You can go and select from the 3 options available. Good luck.
Good luck. And that's it for the podcast this week. My thanks to Steve Withers.
Just a slight stiffness coming on.
Ed Selley.
I hope my big end will stand up to this.
And Tom Davies.
I'm George Lazenby.
Is that a quote from the film, is it?
Yeah, it's in there.
Oh, okay, right. If you enjoyed the podcast, then of course, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be informed every time we upload new videos, including Tom's thumbs. So look out for those. Also, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark avforums.com for latest reviews, news, and video. And of course, you can give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much once again for watching this evening. We'll be back every Wednesday from now on, and we'll see you again next week.